Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Tonight we are talking about the BJP's election machinery, a new Ramayana film, and the government's move to ban ferocious dog breeds. But first let's talk about the BJP's electoral juggernaut. Now the BJP and the Modi-Shah duo transformed Indian politics. That's a given. But key to this transformation has been the BJP's booth strategy, which rests on what we're calling the booth naths, the party workers who mobilize cadres and voters to go and cast their votes. Joining me to discuss this phenomenon are Professor Chambi, Puranik, Banuchandar, Nagarajan, my colleague Kiran Tare from Mumbai, and my colleague Kartikeya Sharma here in the studio with me. Kartikeya, I want to start by asking you this. Indian politics before 2014, Indian politics after 2014. How has the BJP transformed the elections through its poll juggernaut, the booth naths as we're calling them?
I think two things are happening simultaneously. If we look at the equilibrium of politics from 1980 onwards, or even say 1989 onwards, the equilibrium was that, the match was evenly placed between the ruling dispensation and the opposition party. But very rarely that any government in power has broken political parties like that. Yes. Any government, perhaps barring 1967, has rearranged power at the state level.
Right.
An exodus of people from state to central party has taken place. Despite Congress being in power, it was always fashionable to leave Congress and chart a new course.
Right.
Mohan Dharia, Chandrasekhar, Chaudhry Charan Singh, earlier than that. The Young Turks, Chaudhry Charan Singh though was not part of it, but then they left Congress and it was supposed to be the cool thing.
Right.
I think that the coolness has been reversed and most of the people are going back to the Bharatiya Janata Party, because I think power has become something very, very important for your career in politics.
Absolutely.
Continuous use of power.
Right.
Which was unlike 60s and 70s, people could stay out of power for 5 years and even 10 years.
Yes.
The second thing is the art of booth management, which has become complex with urbanization, and BJP has been able to trickle down to residential areas, multi-housing societies.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for the Congress party, because that organization of people around the booth is not confined to the electoral cycle. It is like a life thing. I'll share something with you. I thought, I'll do this exclusive myself, but I'll share this story with you. RSS has decided that this time they are not going to do direct participation in campaigning.
Right.
What RSS has decided this time is that in urban societies, they will organize, every person will organize, Karyakarta or Pracharik will organize a meeting.
Right.
So suppose, and how will that meeting be organized? That meeting will not be organized by him. He will persuade a person like you and me to organize a meeting of 10 like-minded people who are not actively part of BJP and RSS.
Right. That's the Amway model, isn't it?
And the conversation would be about why Prime Minister is important for India.
Right.
And this will continue. Then the other person would do that with other 9 set of people.
Yeah.
So RSS will not be directly doing it. Now this sort of organizational impetus in which the primary person is absent tells you what RSS have been saying. हम समाज को इतना संगठित करना चाहते हैं कि हम समाज में खुद गायब हो जाएं. So they are at that level at which they are going to fight this election. I don't know what will be the result of it, but if it comes true, then we are really looking at a huge majority.
Huge majority, and I think the Prime Minister's targeted that 370 and 400 par and all that. I think 400 plus. 400 plus, first time since 1984. Professor Puranik, tell us how the BJP, has transformed this game of politics, as Kartikeya so beautifully explained to us. From the macro to the micro, and the fact that the intensity of electioneering is changed from a test match thing into a T20 and I think even a T10, if there's that format. But, tell us how this thing is, whereas their opponents have been kind of in the test match era, the BJP has moved far ahead in terms of electioneering and campaigning.
Yeah, over in a couple of decades, I think the Congress has lost in touch with the ground kind of connection or
yes.
the connectivity which it had earlier.
Right,
Earlier,
right.
Because it took advantage of the freedom struggle. Though
Yes.
Gandhi said it should not use the name or title of Congress, all that is the past history.
Yes.
But now, the phenomenal thing which I have observed for the last
Yes.
4 or 5 decades, which I have been observing and also teaching or commenting,
Right.
that it's amazing thing. 12 crore registered members of BJP party are enrolled, which Congress has not done it.
Right.
Congress took people for granted.
Right.
They had
Right.
advantage of the earlier past glory and also
Yes.
using Mahatma Gandhi. That's one thing. Second thing is about Bhutnas, which Brijesh mentioned. And that's a very clever mix of both the RSS
Right.
and also the kind of person who is not connected with RSS but agrees with the ideology of Congress.
Right.
That's the second point. So there, in Bangalore and other places of South India,
Yes.
I've seen the RSS workers are totally committed.
Right.
They don't have ambitions about their ideology or
Yes.
the leadership of the Prime Minister, the things that the BJP has done for last 10 years. These are some of the record things, including 370 and the things mentioned by you about Swachh Bharat and local
Yes.
whatever kind of advantages for the
Right.
voters or women or even the general public also. So all that together. Third thing is, every day, myself and many others, who have been interacting about the state of whatever the dynamics of politics, but they say for every 10 minutes or 20 minutes, there is a kind of message or circular about countering the attack of the opponents, the
Yes.
India opponents or the other opponent or the local, the controversy that is there, including the broadcast in Rameswaram cafe in Bangalore.
Yes.
That kind of I have not come across
Messaging, a very intense messaging that that's been put into play. But Banuchandar, this contrast between these two political machineries of the Congress and the BJP, we forget that politics, especially in democracies, is all about grassroots workers, and the BJP has managed to do that far better than the Congress. Its cadres on the grassroots have worked really well, and if I can actually use an intelligence analogy from the intelligence world, is when the United States started focusing more on technical intelligence rather than human intelligence. That's when they actually started getting surprised by terrorists like 9/11, classic case of that happening. What is the problem here between the two parties, the two GOP on the one hand, that's the Congress, and the BJP? The Congress was always a party of the grassroots. Where did they kind of lose the plot?
That's a good point.
A great question, Sandeep. First of all, we need to understand how the party structure feeds into the strategy. Okay, so usually in organizations they have a pyramidal structure. There is a person on the top, CEO or a president, and then there are lower level officials and division of labor, etc. Even in this pyramidal structure, there are variations. There might be a franchisee model, right, where a franchisee can be totally responsible for everything. There's minimal interaction between the head and the franchise, right? So these are usually the structures. In Congress, usually it has been following the franchisee model. For example, they'll say they tell Ashok Gehlot, Rajasthan ko sambhalo, okay? And he will actually make sure that
the satrap model,
Yeah. So, but usually all political organizations, including the BJP in the past, have been following this pyramidal structure. But what has happened within the BJP post 2014 is a slight tweak in the pyramidal structure, where the top of the pyramid and the bottom of the pyramid are the only things that matter. Top of the pyramid is Prime Minister Modi and Shah, and bottom of the pyramid is the booth level worker. So the middle is basically coordinating between the top and the bottom. They're basically bureaucrats. Okay. So they don't strategize. They only execute and they focus on tactics. So that's the way we should understand it. So in terms of high strategy or financing, everything is taken care of at the top. At the bottom, like, people go and execute. So there's a division of labor between the brain and the hands. We can put it that, right? So that's why. So when Karyakartas or candidates, when they misspeak, okay, when they speak out of turn, they usually are punished because the face that they carry to all of these places is the Prime Minister's face, right? So this is the structure in which the BJP operates. But this structure is beautifully tailored to various states based
Right,
on whether they are strong or not. We can speak at it at length if I
Absolutely, yeah.
have time.
And Kiran, I will come to you first because Kiran, you reported the story from the ground. But I want to ask Kartikeya one quick question. That's a very good point you made there, Banuchandar. This fact that how they've tweaked the structure. But Kartikeya,
You see,
Congress is
Can I just respond to
Yeah,
this?
yeah, of course.
You see,
Go ahead.
I look at differently than what Bhanu has explained. You see, one has to understand the basic DNA of the Congress party. It was a party of freedom struggle.
Yes.
And then various people with different ideologies tried to control it.
Yes.
The only time the stability within the Congress party came was when Gandhi took over Congress
Right.
indirectly. But even then, those ideologies and points were represented through fractions.
Yes.
The best example in this case is Subhash Chandra Bose.
Yes. He was a far right faction.
Subhash Chandra Bose at that point of
Yes.
time was a leftist.
Yes. Right.
He was a leftist. And what was he fighting Gandhi with? He was
Yes.
saying that if I am the president of the party, I should be allowed to run it the way I am.
Yes.
And Gandhi was saying that you need consensus to run the party.
Right.
So Congress party was a party of mainstream. It was a party which stood on the, created a movement.
Right.
Now the people continued to leave Congress party.
Yes.
Very few people joined the Congress party. It was a party of a mainstream ideology.
Right.
Bharatiya Janata Party and RSS started as fringe ideologies.
Yes.
And I will not refrain from using the word.
Right.
Their acceptability even in
Their
1930s and
mainstreaming.
40s and 50s and 60s and 70s was not there. It mainstreamed after
Yes.
1984.
Right.
So the way they developed their organization was different. It was expected in the Congress that the management of faction
Yes.
would lead to a surge of vote.
Right.
Bharatiya Janata Party thought that it is not the management of the faction but the
Right.
management of the booth.
Right.
Management of the booth that would lead
Yes.
to winnability of the candidate. So that is why BJP evolved to micromanage a booth.
Right.
Congress over a period of time tried to evolve around managing the faction.
Right.
But for to manage the faction,
Yes.
you need a iconic person.
Yes.
The management of the booth
Yes.
is around the stickiness of an ideology.
Ideology and a charismatic,
Charismatic,
candidate.
you know, it's stickiness
Yes.
of if
Right.
tomorrow Narendra Modi goes away,
Yes.
the organization of booth will continue to function for 10-15 years.
Yes. That momentum is there
Momentum
that
is going
he's
to be
built
there.
up. Yes.
So there is a basic difference
Yeah.
in the DNA of these two parties.
Right, but Kartikeya, very quickly, the Congress also kind of realized somewhere in 2018 that it was missing the plot, and they came up with this Project Shakti, if you remember. Why did that just fizzle out?
See, they missed the plot because Congress has been engaged in resurrecting the Gandhis.
Yes.
One has to, I think, call spade a spade.
Yeah.
The entire
Yes.
energy of the Congress
Yes.
party from 2009 has been to make Rahul Gandhi the prime ministerial
Right.
candidate.
Right.
After that, the energy of the Congress party was to ensure the relevance of the Gandhis Nehru in the
Yes.
party. The entire approach of the Bharat Jodo Yatra was to
Yes.
reinvent Rahul
Reinvent
Gandhi.
Rahul.
So when
Yes.
your interest was to reinvent a particular family,
Yes.
did you have the time to work for the party? Because the original thought is flawed.
Yes.
I still say it is flawed that if there is no family, there is no Congress. If this is the condition of the Congress today, then it should be disbanded, as Mahatma Gandhi said.
Right.
It should
Absolutely.
be disbanded because
After the-
Congress was a party of ideology.
Ideology.
It was not a party of Nehru Gandhi.
Yes,
It was
absolutely.
based on ideology. That was
Very,
that is Swaraj.
Very important points there, Kartikeya. But I want to bring in Kiran. He's been patiently listening to our debate. But Kiran, you were on the ground of all places in Tamil Nadu, where you saw the BJP booth workers there going house to house. Tamil Nadu is not known for any BJP presence, right? You have barely won 2 seats there. But tell us what you saw on the ground there and whether the booth workers have managed to make a dent into the BJP, the DMK's monolithic structure in Tamil Nadu.
BJP has been running a beautiful idea with a concept that one booth, 10 youth.
Right.
So there has to be 10 youths per booth, and these 10 people will manage the booth. They will contact the voters there. There are 1,000 to 1,100 voters per
Yes.
booth, and the BJP workers have been given a task to reach out to each and every voter.
Right.
So here what they have done in Tamil Nadu, I found them very enthusiastic. They have formed committees at the booth level.
Right.
So one will take care of the management, one will take care of the logistic part of things, one will take care of preparing the voter list, and one will point out the ideas how to reach out to the voters. So the BJP workers on the ground, they are working very enthusiastically with a one soul that they have to reach to every single voter, which
Right.
they could not do in earlier days. And
Right.
why this change has happened? Because they know that this is the right time to win the people's heart and to reach to the every people when the time needs. Because the Modi's charisma is there, and
Yes.
using Modi's charisma, this is the right time to expand the party in a state where it has been the weakest organization so far. That was the scene in Tamil Nadu. But again,
Yes.
here, when we talk about Tamil Nadu itself, the BJP is trying to replace the ADMK as the
Yes.
principal opposition party. That is their goal. They are not trying to defeat the DMK. They have a bigger role to
Right.
play, but
Right.
their immediate target is to
Is to replace the
ADMK as the
AIDMK.
principal opposition
Absolutely,
party.
yes. And the BJP juggernaut on full steam ahead with Prime Minister Modi leading the charge. I'd like to thank Professor Puranik, Banuchandar, my colleague Kiran Tare, and of course Kartikeya Sharma for joining us on this very interesting debate. Of course, for more on this story, you can watch Kiran's story on the BJP's electoral machinery, the booth nuts. Download the News9 Plus app and watch this story. India's dog owners are wrestling with a dog problem. The centre recently banned ferocious dog breeds. They've banned the import, sale and breeding of 23 ferocious dog breeds, which it said are dangerous to human life. And I'm joined in the studio today evening by Boris and his dog parent Lalit and my colleague Deepak Badana. Lalit, welcome to the News9 Plus show.
Thank you.
Boris, welcome. Boris is focused on the camera. I think he knows the right camera angle for himself. But Lalit, over to you first.
Yeah.
What dog parent, you have a Rottweiler there.
Yes.
Were you worried when you saw the notification from the central government banning dog breeds?
Obviously, we are. He is not a dog for us. He is like a family member.
Absolutely.
He's
As
like
all
a son
dogs
to
are,
us.
Yes.
So we are worried, and I don't think it's fair to categorize them like
Right.
that.
Right.
You cannot ban dogs like that.
Yes. But I want to ask you, Lalit, Rottweilers, generally ferocious, they've got a bad rep after Stephen King's novel, I guess, Cujo. What made you decide on getting a Rottweiler as a pet?
It's just, it was instant love at first sight.
Right.
When we saw him as a kid,
Right.
a small puppy.
How old is he?
Right now he's around 8.5.
Right.
Yeah, but we have stopped counting his.
Yes.
Exactly, we don't know how old is he.
Right.
It's that fear of losing them.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
we have
So,
stopped counting.
so Boris is not a fad. He was there in your family. He's been there for 8 years, and he's perfectly well-behaved dog. I
Yeah,
see the
he's-
way he's
and
lying
before-
out, chilling out in the studio. I think he likes the place. But
He does.
Deepak, you're a dog owner yourself. Thankfully, Deepak's dog isn't in the studio because he's quite a beast.
Yeah.
But what's your take on this whole policy? You think it was well thought through, the way the government has framed its notification?
What's been happening is since 2014, there have been a series of notifications, and
Right.
these are largely in response to incidents that have happened.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the incidents that have happened, they show a certain pattern.
Right.
What you see is a lot of apartment owners primarily
Yes.
who've had certain dog breeds, which may or may not be prone to biting.
Yeah.
And in those confined spaces, there may be instances where a certain animal is not getting the mental stimulation
Right.
it needs,
Right.
and there may be some factors, that may have contributed to certain incidents. Maybe
Right, right.
somebody just came too close
Yes.
for comfort. Now these incidents have kind of led to what some call a knee-jerk reaction on part
Right.
of the authorities.
Right.
So if you've had a look at the circulars,
Yes.
they're very brief. The central circular, thankfully, still has more details.
Right.
But how the centre's policy is going to be implemented,
Right.
what are the measures that owners can take, how RWAs should respond, these are things that are still
Yes.
unclear.
But, so Lalit, on that note, do you see a change in the way the RWAs in your society, for instance, have been looking at Boris, after the notification came out? He looks
they
like
love
a
him.
perfect breed. That's right.
They love him.
Right.
Because they've seen him.
Yes.
When I take him for a stroll,
Yes.
half the time I don't, leash him.
Right.
Because the moment you leash them,
Yes.
they get that thing that, why am I leashed?
Right. Right. Yes.
I'm not harming anyone. I'm not barking at anyone. There are no incidences.
He's perfectly well behaved. And
He is perfectly
so-
well behaved because we have trained him like that.
Right.
We have not trained him to attack.
Absolutely. So that's a very important point. That training is so important.
Exactly.
It's like, just like with children, right? Upbringing is so important for the children. How what the child will turn out to is a result of how
Exactly.
the children are brought up. But I have Dr. Vivek Aurora, who's a renowned veterinary doctor in South Delhi. Dr. Aurora, welcome to the News9 Plus show. I wish you could join us here in person because we've got a very interesting gentleman here who's quietly lying on the floor listening to all of us speak. Boris, the Rottweiler, and his dog parent here, Lalit, with us, and my colleague Deepak Badana. But Dr. Aurora, you've been looking at this issue for many, many years now. Do you think that the central government's notification was well thought through in terms of the way they've, gone about it? Ban the import, sale, breeding of ferocious dog breeds.
See, I may not be the right person to say how every stakeholder was engaged
Right.
in formulating such a policy. But I'm sure a lot of thought must have gone into the prior incidents that have occurred
Right.
and
right.
how they have come up to. But please also look into the fact that up till now, or we actually, when we talk about dog breeding, dog adopting or pet keeping,
Yes.
it's still a very unorganized sector wherein
Right.
there lies no norms or
Right.
rules
Right.
as to how a pet should be brought in, how a
Yes.
breed should be kept at home,
Right.
or what a breeder is, how a breeder is,
Right.
and how you should be maintaining your dog if you live in a society.
Right.
So that kind of social responsibility in terms of pet owners,
Yes.
social responsibility of dog breeders,
Right.
needs to be understood. I mean, we cannot justify an incident wherein your dog has taken a chunk out unprovoked from someone.
Absolutely. Yes.
Or let's say I am walking my dog and some other dog comes running into a
Right,
path
right.
and just rips my dog,
Yes.
or takes a chunk out.
Absolutely. So
I
a
mean,
very
nothing-
interesting
nothing
point there,
justifies it.
Dr. Aurora, the fact that, this might have happened as a result of the unregulated trade in dogs. And we've been discussing this issue here, Deepak, in News9 Plus on how, the regulators looked the other way and there was a massive explosion in the kind of these ferocious dog breeds. People bought it for, reasons of status and prestige and all that. Of course, Boris here, quiet gentleman here, exception to the rule, but there are many housing societies, Lalit, where, people have literally got these dogs as trophy animals and they've kind of, paraded them around. They haven't done what you have done. The good dog parent that you've perfectly integrated him into your family and with your RWA, as you said, they love him. But will your dog be banned? That's a question that a lot of dog owners like Lalit are asking, especially after the circulars that the central government has brought out in the last couple of days. That's been followed by a lot of state governments which have followed suit to ban these ferocious dog breeds. Of course, that's still in the courts, but that's a story that we'll be monitoring very closely. But I'd like to thank Dr. Aurora for joining us this evening, my colleague Deepak Badana, of course, Boris. And Lalit. Mythologicals have been the stuff of entertainment in India. The first Indian film was Raja Harishchandra. In 1987, the Ramayana TV series brought the mythological into people's homes, and some say also aided the BJP's movement to build a temple in Ayodhya. But recent attempts to film the epic have been unsuccessful. Last year, we saw the colossal failure of a 700 crore blockbuster, Adi Purush. Another Ramayana project is in the works with an equally massive budget. And joining me to talk about Bollywood's epic foray are Mayank Shekhar, Saurabh Verma, and my colleague Geeta Datta here in the studio. Mayank, big screen spectacles are here to stay, right? After all those back-to-back blockbusters that we saw last year. But what's troubling Project Ramayana? Why is that not getting off the ground? We've been hearing some...
Well, I mean, you did mention that, the mythologicals are not working.
Yeah.
I think you were referring only to one particular film, which is Adi Purush, right?
Yes.
And there are too many things that were not going right with the movie, including its own politics and all those things that they got into trouble for.
Right.
But you have a film like Hanuman that came just a few weeks back that did incredibly well. It was, of course, from down south.
Yep.
And a lot of people flocked to the theaters to watch that movie. I'm being told that when the same film went on the OTT, there weren't that many clicks. So what's
Right.
very clear is that mythological, as a fantastical genre,
Right.
is a big screen genre. It lends
Yes.
itself really well to the bigger canvas,
Right.
and it does not surprise me one bit that they're giving Ramayana another shot
Right.
with an equally big budget and a huge star cast.
Yes.
But I mean, what will be there to be seen is the
Yes.
moment you do go big screen,
Right.
the expectations get higher because you're comparing any subject of this
Yes.
nature to the level of fantasies that we've seen with an LOTR, like a Lord of the Rings trilogy, or even
Yes.
even if it's an OTT, like a Game of Thrones, it's that becomes at some level the benchmark. To
Right.
achieve that,
Right.
you need a certain level of expertise, skill, besides just the budget, of course.
Absolutely. Saurabh, this project Ramayana that we've been hearing, it's increasingly beset by all kinds of disputes. The producer has been replaced. There's stuff over the talk about the costumes not being right. The budget needs to go up, and this comes at a time when they've already blocked the dates of the stars. The studios have been booked. I mean, I think it's a little too late in the day to be, changing horses mid-course. What's your take on this project?
So I think first and foremost, yes, obviously there's just one failure and there are a lot of successes.
Yes.
But the responsibility of making such an epic is
Yes.
huge.
Right.
So, and it's a creative process. It can't start from a point A to point B. So
Yes.
obviously the creators are rethinking certain steps.
Right.
And rightly so, because of the scale. And today, this project would not just be catering to a Delhi or a UP or a
Yes.
Bombay or a this thing. It's catering to the whole universe. I mean, the
Right.
entire world can see it, and they will see India in the way we would want to show it.
Yes.
So I guess the responsibility is huge, and that's what the director Nitish Tiwari is also aware of. So I
Yes.
think that's the reason why people are rethinking and working on things. Is what I feel.
Right, right. Geeta, this Adi Purush thing, I think that's the elephant in the room, right?
Yes.
I mean, as Mayank was saying, that it wasn't a particularly well-made film. I guess that's the reason it didn't really work. So it's not so much about the mythologicals working or not working. It's a badly made film, and it didn't click with the audiences. But why are the the Project Ramayana makers still focused on it? I mean, they obviously weren't too bothered about what happened to Adipurush.
So Sandeep, actually, so taking from what they've been saying,
Yeah.
we've had mythological films literally
Yes.
even before the partition.
Yes.
They used to use mythological films to send messages, how to fight the British and
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
protest
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So we've seen that, and they've been extremely successful, including two very hit big serials that sort
Yes.
of revived the whole thing all over again. I think everybody knows their story, and I
Yes.
think everybody who tries to redo it wants to, take it a notch up.
That's right.
I think Adipurush went really horribly wrong because they kept insisting, they didn't call it Ramayana, they called it
Yes.
Adipurush, and they thought they will say, okay, it's like Ramayana, but it's not. So, and they tried to give it a very plebeian, for me, I didn't
The
like dialogues and everything was
We're little
terrible.
realizing how deeply, rooted the original
Yes,
Ramayana
and also
series
they
were.
try to do what he said. Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings meets, the gorilla, the film
Yes.
that they had, and Ramayana. So it was just very, I thought it was quite crazy
No, but
to even
that
see the
South
trailer.
Indian film Hanuman has seemed to have nailed it. I mean, it was an incredibly successful film.
Sandeep, we are talking about the obvious ones, right?
Yes.
But you forget Bahubali was also takeoff
Yes.
from Ramayana, and so was Hum Saath Saath Hain, which
Right.
has actually nothing to do with mythological
Yes.
films, but it's there. I think everybody wants to take it a notch up, and I
Yes.
think what they want to probably, since one is reading a lot about VFX here,
Yes.
I think where what they're trying to do, and I think hence the cost factor,
Yes.
is that they want to make it give that experience. Like Mayank was saying, this is a theater experience film
Yes.
story. So maybe they want to, up the thing for the people who have now become the world citizen. They're seeing world cinema. So I have a feeling it's probably that's where they're getting stuck.
Absolutely, but it's a little, as I said, it's a little too late in
Yeah,
the day. They've already blocked the dates, the
sequence
sets
is
are
a bit
up,
haywire,
and yeah,
yes.
it's gone haywire. But Mayank, while we're talking about the Ramayana, there's this other eternal project that we've been talking about for the longest time. That's the Mahabharat, in Bollywood, a Hindi remake of, or rather a Hindi film on the Mahabharata. That's not really taken off, right? But there's been plenty of people who've attempted it. I think Rajkumar Santoshi was the last person somewhere in 20 years back. What's the status on that? Are there any filmmakers seriously looking at a Mahabharata as well?
Well, I think we got very close to it, Sandeep, and this was about 3 years back. I may be mistaken in terms of 2 or 3 years back.
Yes.
Roughly around 2017 or so, when Amir Khan showed huge interest in producing Mahabharat and producing it in the highest scale possible to take it to the level of a Lord of the Rings. We keep saying this because that becomes at some level a benchmark.
Yes.
Mukesh Ambani had shown interest.
Yes.
And there was going to be 1,000 crore pumped into that film.
Right.
And as it is with mythology, I don't think it's easy to do this, and therefore all of them seem jinxed over a period of time.
Yes.
And nothing really came of that particular project that was pretty much there on paper. And I can say it from sources that I knew rather well at the time when we reported that particular story. That said, Sandeep, I think one needs to be very clear that at no point in time in our popular culture, screen entertainment, have these two particular mythologies, like both Ramayana and Mahabharata, ever left the screen. I mean, there's a whole cottage industry that came up in Naigaon, which literally just only produces one mythology after another mythological TV series. There's a company called Swastik Entertainment. That's all they used to do. I mean, the last time I went to Ayodhya was for the launch of yet another Ramayana, centered on Love Kush, and they'd done a huge launch for one of the TV stations. So television has always had one of the two playing and doing rather well on the ratings front. The issue is, but because the benchmarks are pretty low there, the issue is when you take it up to the big screen, it has to match with the best in the world. And I think we got close, but I don't know what happened to that particular Mahabharat of Amir Khan. I really hope it gets made at some point.
Sticker. And Mayank, don't forget that we met first on the sets of Akbar Khan's Taj Mahal 20 years back.
True.
20 years back, and that was a big budget film, and that didn't do too well either.
Film. I will never forget, Sandeep. There was one point where we were sitting there, and I think Akbar Khan was the director, and he's like sitting and figuring out how high should a particular fountain go, and that guy is barely there on the screen. So that's the level of effort they were putting in. Clearly nothing much happened to that particular movie as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still remember, Geeta, I must tell you this since we haven't discussed this earlier, the fact that Kabir Bedi was Shah Jahan in that film, and he put on this full costume and he came on just for a photo shoot. I mean, he was like a stickler for, he was a total professional. But sort of, coming back to present day and Project Ramayan, sticker shock, you think, over here, right? The fact that they've invested so heavily in this project, it looks like the big, budgets involved, big stars. Equally, we're hearing the kind of star cast that we haven't seen in a Hindi film in years. And yes, it's almost like a Pushpa kind of project. But do you see this actually getting off the ground now, despite all these troubles that it's been having? And, let's not forget, there's no official statements yet, except that one statement of the producer being changed. But there's no formal announcement of the project yet. What's your forecast on this?
The project is going to take shape. It is going to, that's for sure, because, somebody who's been working for it for years, it'll be extremely difficult for the person to just drop it. Also, the thing is that, these things become difficult for a producer also because geographically, when we look at it, or when we look at the ticket sales, the film has a massive blockbuster to just break even. And that's one of the problems of the, or I can say the hindrance in the project. The second thing is, we've not yet mastered the art of creating seamless VFX. In spite of the fact that there's so many VFX studios, you will not get that finesse of a Dune in a VFX. So I'm sure makers are trying to tackle that aspect as well. But when you equate that from dollars to rupees, the cost becomes extremely high. So I guess these are some unforeseen or maybe foreseen problems of making a film for such massive scale. If you think that, only if Indians watch it, the film will, make money, it won't. So, obviously, the risks are higher, things are higher. So, that's why I think it is taking time.
The risks are higher, things are higher. Thanks very much, Saurabh. We are completely out of time here, but Mayank, thanks for joining us. Saurabh, great to hear your thoughts on this. The Ramayana reboot that's facing starting trouble, as Geeta just mentioned, for various reasons. As Mayank and Saurabh have mentioned, the fact that VFX is a major issue, and It has to be among the best. It has to compete with the likes of Lord of the Rings and Dune. But thanks for watching.